Here I am with a 1988 Ford. It's been sitting outside for a while, and before cold weather gets here, I just want to get it cleaned up a little bit. It's a work in progress. Put some primer on it. I pressure washed it, and when I did, the paint started to come off. So what I plan to do is sand this down and get some primer on it. I don't have a place to work on it inside, so what I'm using is Rust-Oleum primer in a spray can. I'm not a professional painter. It's not going to be a professional job. I just want it to be protected for the winter. But my strategy is I sanded it with 80 grit with a sanding sponge from Lowe's, and then I sprayed 2 coats of the primer, and you can see like this area right here, that's where the old paint was coming off. What my strategy is today is to try to build these areas up with another couple coats of primer. Try to get them evened out, you know, resand all this, and then reprimer these areas and try to build it up. We'll see how it goes, but eventually I'll pay and have a professional paint job done. But for now, that'll be good enough for what I'm doing for now. But my goal this time, when I'm sanding, and I've already sanded this, here's my 80 grit block. My goal isn't to remove a lot of paint. It's just to rough it up for the next coat. You can see where it got down to the original there. My plan is to tape off like an area like this and try to build up right here. You know, try to build up the areas where the paint's not as smooth as it should be. So, and then you can see how that paint came out the last time I did it. I'm pretty sure that was because I painted too close between coats. I didn't wait long enough between coats. But not a big deal. There's still a lot of sanding to be done, a lot of respraying to be done. On the other fender, I haven't started sanding yet. Everything I've seen says to sand in a crosshatch pattern like this. You know, if I sand that way, 3 or 4 strokes turn that way. So that's my plan. That's how I did the other fender. So that's what I'm going to keep doing. I went ahead and I changed blocks. I got a new block, new sanding block, sanding sponge. Still 80 grit, but so here's my strategy. This crosshatch pattern, right? And just some patience. And the whole idea behind sanding is to rough things up, obviously to get ready for the primer, to give the primer something to hold on to, you know. That's why I'm starting with 80, to remove the big stuff, you know, get it down to bare metal. You can see that spot right there. I'll try to show you kind of before and after. So you can see it's, if it'll focus here, you can see it's starting to have a little result. But that'll smooth things out a little bit. It'll remove enough of the surface issues to make it a little smoother, and the actual grit of the sandpaper will give the primer I'm going to spray something to hold on to. So here's a spot where the paint's really coming off. So I got a razor blade here. I'll just go ahead and pick away at it some. There's no use in trying to sand that off. Comes off pretty good with a razor blade. Get it reasonably cleaned up. And then there's the logo here, the F-150 logo, which I want to remove, so just take a screwdriver, do a little bit of prying on that. There's some adhesive. Whoop, there it goes. There's some adhesive there, and there's also those two little posts that hold it on. Apparently one of them broke off. That'll be part of the project. Replacing stuff like this. So there's the other one. And then what works pretty good is to take the razor blade again and work at that stuff. Just kind of try to peel it off. Comes off pretty good. That's stuff that would just clog sandpaper up. So once I get all of it scraped off, I can keep sanding. And there's where the logo was after I've scraped it off. It's pretty well scraped off, enough to start sanding again. And then another issue is going to be the chrome around the wheel well, which on the other side I ended up just taking a hammer and chisel and just knocked these hex head screws out. They're self-tapping screws. So I don't know if my camera's focusing or not, but self-tapping screws, they're too corroded to actually use a nut driver on, but I just knock them out with a hammer and chisel so I can keep going. So this is the fender after I sanded it, and there's a glare there, but I wiped it down with mineral spirits. So that's why it's kind of shiny like that. I just finished wiping it down. So while that fender dries, I'll go back to the primered fender. And I just wiped it down with a tack cloth. So now I'm gonna tape these areas off. I'm going to try to build them up a little bit, the low spots. Not going for perfection, but just want to get them built up. I might try to paint it myself next summer, but definitely want to get it protected for the winter. Okay, so here it is taped off. So it's ready to paint, and I kind of squared out the low spots so I can hit them like this area right here. There's a little spot down here, and then backing up a little bit, when I was prepping this, I didn't take my sandpaper down underneath because it's really dirty down here. What I did was I scraped that with the same razor blade I was using to remove the adhesive. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to put more primer on this. So here's the freshly sanded and taped off fender. I'm getting ready to primer it. One thing I did, it's about 70 degrees out here and the sun's shining on this right now, but it's been really cool at night, down in the 50s. So I started this truck before I started working on it today and got it warm, and I shut it off and I put the spray paint cans under the hood and got them warm, so everything's nice and warm. I saw that on another channel. You know, it's basically trying to follow the directions on the can, so they recommend temperatures, you know, to apply the paint in, and it affects the recoat time. So here's the first coat on these low spots, and you can see the low spots are still very obvious, but I'm hoping that with a second coat and then on a different day resanding, that they're going to come out better than they were. And it's not an exact project anyway, so hopefully it's gonna come out pretty good. Here's the fender that I started today with 2 coats of primer. Sun's kind of hitting it now. Not sure how good this is showing up, but and then that'll be all I can do for today because I'm going to run out of time. They don't recommend sanding it for like 4 hours. And then here's the fender that I was trying to build up some areas on, and you can still see them, but that's 2 coats. I don't know if it'll work or not. But in the next video I make, next time I get to work on the truck, I'll sand it down and see how it comes out. It's will at least be protected for winter, and it's really the first painting I've done, you know, where I've approached it kind of logically and tried to make something out of it. So hopefully it turns out good. Thanks for watching.